The Haunting of Hollow Ridge. Episode 6, Confronting Shadows. Nina stood at the edge of a swirling abyss, her heart pounding. The girl with hollow eyes hovered nearby, her presence both eerie and calming. To find Grace and the others, you must face what you fear the most, the girl said, her voice echoing in the strange landscape. Nina exchanged worried glances with Daniel, Tom, and Jack. What if we can't? Tom asked, his voice trembling. Then you will be lost forever, the girl replied softly, her eyes glistening with sorrow. This place feeds on fear. Only by confronting your shadows can you hope to escape. What does that even mean? Daniel asked, his voice rising in frustration. Your greatest fears are alive here, the girl explained. They will take form, and you must confront them. Only then will you find the truth and the way back. Nina steeled herself. We can do this. We have to. As the girl's words settled in, the ground beneath them began to shift. The landscape morphed into two distinct paths, each shrouded in darkness. Choose wisely, the girl whispered, her voice fading as she stepped back into the shadows. Without thinking, Nina reached for Daniel's hand. We stick together, she said firmly. Whatever happens, we face it together. The group took a deep breath and stepped onto the path, the darkness swirling around them like a living entity. The air grew thick and suffocating, filled with the whispers of their past. The darkness consumed them as they walked, and the whispers grew louder, distorting into familiar voices. Suddenly, they found themselves in a dimly lit hallway filled with old family photographs, faces twisted in sorrow. Tom, look! Jack shouted, pointing to a photograph of Tom's family on the wall. Tom stepped closer, his expression turning to dread. No, this isn't real. Tom shouted, his hands trembling as he reached for the photo. The faces in the photograph shifted, morphing into twisted versions of his family, their eyes filled with despair. You left us, Tom, they whispered in unison. You abandoned us. Tom fell to his knees, his voice breaking. I didn't mean to. I was trying to save myself. Nina and Daniel moved closer, but the shadows closed in around Tom, suffocating him in his fear. You can't escape your past, the shadows taunted. No. You have to fight it, Tom. Nina yelled, reaching out to him. Tom looked up, tears streaming down his face as he faced the shadows. I didn't abandon you. I was scared, he shouted, his voice breaking the hold the shadows had over him. You're stronger than this. Daniel urged, stepping beside him. You can overcome it. Tom took a deep breath, his hands clenching into fists. I won't let you take me, he shouted, standing tall. The shadows recoiled, their grip weakening as Tom confronted his fear. As he found his strength, the twisted faces began to fade, replaced by memories of love and laughter. The darkness around them dissipated, revealing a bright light that surrounded Tom, pushing the shadows away. Keep going. Nina urged, her voice filled with hope. The landscape shifted again, and they found themselves in an abandoned classroom, filled with broken desks and peeling paint. Jack froze, his eyes wide with fear. No, not here. In front of him stood a towering figure, a monstrous version of his high school principal, looming over him. You were always a failure, Jack, the figure boomed, its voice reverberating off the walls. You'll never be good enough. Jack backed away, fear etched on his face. I'm not that person anymore, he shouted, but the figure only laughed. You can't escape who you are, it sneered, advancing on him. Nina stepped forward, her heart racing. Jack, you have to face it. You're not that person anymore. Jack hesitated, but the principal's shadow loomed closer, its presence suffocating. You can't hide from the truth, it roared. No. I'm not afraid of you. Jack shouted, finding his voice. I've grown. I've changed. With each word, the figure began to flicker and fade, losing its power. Jack squared his shoulders, determination flooding through him. I won't let you control me. As he spoke, the classroom transformed, the darkness lifting to reveal bright sunlight streaming through the windows. The shadow dissolved completely, leaving Jack standing tall. Nina, Tom, and Jack rushed to catch up with Daniel, who stood frozen at the edge of a muddy field. The ground was slick with rain, and a fierce storm raged around him. In the distance, silhouettes of people moved through the rain, his family. "Daniel!" Nina called, but he didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the figures, their faces obscured by shadows. "Why did you leave us?" the figures called, their voices mingling with the howling wind. "You chose to run." Daniel's face twisted with anguish as he stepped closer to the edge. "I didn't want to leave. I had to survive." Nina reached for him, her heart racing. "Don't. You can't go to them." As Daniel stood at the brink of despair, Nina's voice broke through the storm. "Daniel. Remember what you told me? You're not responsible for what happened to them. You survived." He hesitated, the storm raging around him, but the shadows began to pull him closer to the edge. "You're not real. You can't be." Nina took a step forward, her voice steady. "I am real. And so are you. You are more than your past." Daniel's breath hitched as he turned to face her. "I can't let them down again." "Yes, you can," Nina urged. "You can live for them. You can be the person they would want you to be." With a surge of determination, Daniel stepped back from the edge, shaking off the shadow's grip. "I won't let my fear control me," he shouted, his voice rising above the storm. As he declared his truth, the storm began to fade, the figures dissipating into mist. The sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the field and lifting the shadows away. Nina, Daniel, Tom, and Jack stood together, breathless and shaken, but united. They had faced their fears and emerged stronger. The girl with hollow eyes reappeared, her expression one of relief. "You've confronted your shadows. Now you must find the lost ones." "But how?" Nina asked, hope mingling with uncertainty. "Follow the light," the girl said, pointing to a path that glowed with ethereal energy. "It will lead you to them. But be warned, the house will not give them up easily." The group exchanged determined looks, ready to face whatever came next. End of episode 6.